lounge of Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Karolina Guilcapi, who is founder and destination expert of Sated Ventures. So welcome to the lounge, Karolina. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and this is a very special episode. We're so excited because this is part of our How I Built This series, where really we just want to go more in depth on, how different travel professionals like Karolina have built their successful business. And this is our first episode. So thanks for kind of being our guinea pig on this. We're really excited, and it's a very perfect person to do this with.
My pleasure, guinea pig. I love it.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's so cool because that's what we're going to go into and talk about your business. But it's just really cool how you built this. But first, before we get into all of that, though, can you just first share just a little bit more about yourself and where did your inspiration for travel come from?
Yeah, of course. So travel has always been a part of my life. I grew up in Poland. I was born in Warsaw, Poland. And even during the 80s, post-communist Poland, quite restricted, travel was always part of my family. My parents always try to create adventures for us. We always were doing something by the sea or in the countryside. So it was kind of just naturally part of our life. And then when I was 10 years old, my parents applied for the green card lottery, if you're familiar with that, and we won. We won the lottery. And within months, we came to Brooklyn, New York, which is very different from Poland, very different. And, 10 years old, I spent my whole teenage life in Brooklyn. That's where I learned English. That's where I discovered different cultures because it's New York. I mean, on our block alone, there was, all different religions and nationalities. And I fell in love with that. I fell in love with exploring the city, then exploring the United States, learning about different cultures. And it always stayed with me, that kind of culture shock. So I pursued that, throughout school, throughout college. And just made sure that it becomes part of my life. I studied at Johnson & Wales University, full scholarship, international tourism and hotel management. This is 20 years ago, okay? And I graduated high honors and, took every opportunity. That school kind of made it where it's very hands-on. So there were internships everywhere around the world. So I was a tour guide in Italy. I did a semester in Switzerland where we ran a whole hotel, only student-based run hotel. And I did an ecotourism program in Guatemala. I studied Spanish in the Amazon jungle. So every opportunity that came across, I grabbed it because it allowed me to kind of start thinking about what exactly do I want to do? Yeah, like everybody loves to travel, right? But how can I make this my career? And it always kind of pulled me back to that feeling, that culture shock that I experienced in Brooklyn as a kid, that feeling like, oh my God, this is exciting. This is something new. And I wanted to create that for other people. And so naturally sales became the goal. I'm going to be in sales. I'm going to sell this so people can experience it too.
Wow, that is so cool. Oh my gosh. That's the thing. We're like, wait, can we go back to college and do that major? That's awesome. That is really cool. And so when did the idea when did your business first start to take form, take shape?
So we're quite a new business. We started during furlough, but I did this job for the last 16 years, right? I was always in travel sales. I was in different companies where I started at like entry-level salesperson, just figuring out what I'm good at, and climbing. I was general sales manager of 2 companies before the pandemic and furlough happened. I was working 12-hour days, traveling around, to over 40 countries in the last 16 years, and just really absorbing knowledge and processes and figuring out who my ideal client is. Because it's, travel is really about listening. 80% you should be quiet and listen, and 20% you should share what you know. You will learn that a lot, because when you have really high-end clients, you need to be quiet because they love to talk about travel. They love to talk about their experiences. So you have to learn about them first. So I've learned this in 16 years. This is not something you pick up overnight. And of course, what works, what doesn't, and building relationships around the world. So while I was doing all that and being busy and just in that hamster wheel, then furlough happened. And because of the pandemic, everything stopped, travel stopped, oh, the end of the world, for our industry. And it's like, I lived through 9/11 in the travel industry. So I knew travel was always going to come back. People don't just stop traveling. If you want to travel, you will find a way. And I was like the first one in line for my vaccine because I knew I was going to be on a plane 4 weeks later, and so on and so on. So we will find a way to make it work. So I realized that, okay, this is amazing. This pause in my career is not a downfall. It's so that I can take a pause, breathe, kind of reevaluate everything I have learned in the last 16 years working for somebody else, and kind of figure out what didn't I like. Well, no, I didn't like working 12 hours a day. And no, I didn't like the way the companies were going because they were growing and growing and growing. And I really wanted to reel back to what I loved in those beginning years. I loved South America, Latin America, that was where my heart is. That's where my family is from now. I married a man from Ecuador, who I met in Brooklyn, nothing to do with travel at all. He was like a block away, childhood friend. And so I realized that I want to kind of reel that back in. I want to focus on Latin America. That's what I love. I love the people. I love the food. I love the way it feels when you're traveling there. And I want to focus on food because that is my other big lover. So I wanted to marry those two things. I wanted to marry those two things, food and travel, and decided, oh my God, why not start a company during the pandemic? Because it will give me time to kind of figure out how to do everything before the rush of travelers come back. So that's how it came about.
Yeah. Oh, that is so awesome. And what were your first steps when you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. This is the right time. What were the first things you did? Was it a business plan, or did you just kind of map out what you needed to be done?
I love that you mentioned business plan because yes, I totally sat down like a good college educated girl and said, I'm going to write a business plan. And so many people that I know that started their own business, whether they're alone really in the beginning, they don't do that because they're like, well, I don't have to do a business plan. I'm not going to get investors and I'm not going to do this and that. I'm like, but there's a difference between a hobby and a business. So that's when you have to start getting serious. This is, if you're really planning for a long-term project, which I'm hoping this is a lifelong project, you really have to do from A to Z, do all the steps. So I knew how to sell and I knew my product and I know I am very confident in what I can do, but then I've never had a business before. My family is not an entrepreneur family. So this was the first ever for me. So I reached out to everybody I know and picked everybody's brain. And there's a career source center here in my town that does mentor volunteers, sat down with all of them and picked their brains on what to do and how to make it legal. I had to get licensed for travel. I had to get insured. I had to get bonded. I had to get all my ducks in a row, figure out how to add travel insurance. How can I sell airfare? All of those things went down like rabbit holes everywhere, So that took quite a few months to make sure everything is just proper because I'm really big into making sure clients feel secure. I'm not about selling cheapy trips. I'm selling really high-end experiences, but really special experiences. So I don't want any gaps, coming, just legal things coming up in the way. So those things took quite a long time to do. Then, obviously the whole technology part, you have to build a website. Everything's on the internet, right? I'm aging myself. World Wide Web, But in my previous jobs, I had a team for everything. I had an IT guy and I had a social media guy, and now I am all those guys in one. So I had to learn how to do all that, which it to my advantage. I love learning. I love studying. I love doing all that. So it was actually a fun project. Oh, let me build a website from scratch. And I did have some friends that helped me out, but majority was done all by myself. And because I'm a control freak on top of that. So that was another few months of crying over the keyboard. But then the big things, okay, so you got you got all your legal things and you got your website and you're like officially on Google, but what now? How do you get clients? How do you get people to get to know you? And that is the whole big behind the scenes marketing part, where whenever in my past jobs, I did a lot of webinars. I was training different travel agents on, how to do things and what to do. And so people don't realize that there's sales and there's marketing, but really we are all one. It has to work together. So now I am really focusing on that marketing side of the business. And I started I started with obviously all the contacts I had, not client contacts, but all the friends that I made along the way in different countries, just letting them know I'm here, I'm doing this. If you have any clients who you may not be selling directly to, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. But then I realized quickly that people were not ready to travel yet. A lot of people are skittish. Oh, like, what test do I have to? There's a lot of fear still. So I was like, okay, well, I've never been a pushy salesperson. I don't like it. So I would never do that. So I decided to kind of reel back from that and focus just here locally, take 2 years. I gave myself like a 2-year thing where all I'm about doing is exposure. I just want people to associate Karolina Guilcapi and State Adventures when they think of travel. And in marketing, there's like this special thing called the magic number 7, or in advertising, where subconsciously, if people see or hear you to do with some topic 7 times or more, like that's how long it takes us to connect the dots 7 times, then they will automatically start associating you. So I just joined every Facebook group, local groups here. I'm really into volunteering. So I'm at every board here in our town and on towns around. I did, like if there's a wine tasting, I show up with all my wine trips. If there's a honeymoon, like a wedding show, then I'm over there showing my honeymoon ideas. And then I started putting on events. I did wine tasting, I did a beer tasting, I did even a book exchange or a travel trivia night, where I'll just invite local community, not to sell, but just to say, hey, I'm Karolina and I'm your travel expert. I know what I'm doing, and just to have that conversation again, just to connect the dots for maybe 2-3 years down the line when they're planning something, or when someone asks them, where should I go? Oh, you should call her. And it started taking off. I'm getting tons of contacts locally, like, well, what about this? And how do I do this? And it's conversations. That's how you start. So those were the first steps, how I tried to get things off the ground.
That's incredible. And I just love too that how you gave you're looking at it in a scale of 2 years, which I think is really good too, because a lot of times with marketing, I mean, you just want a result because you put so much time into it and it takes so long sometimes. And so that's awesome. And which ones are you seeing the most? Like, is it events, social media, or which ones are your favorite, or that you're seeing a lot of new clients come from?
So the big thing I found that worked, it's still that face-to-face interactions. I think people, again, are very skittish. So if they know you, if they meet you, they start trusting you. All I want them to know is that they can trust me. So what I've done, and it kind of like, I wasn't planning on it, but it kind of spiraled from events to these things, joint ventures. I decided to reach out to local businesses that somehow may relate to travel and see what we can do amongst, when we combine forces. So a local dance studio, well, they dance, and I'm an expert in some destinations like Argentina that is known for dancing. well, we're taking a group to Argentina next month, like it just came out of naturally out of us talking. Um, a winery. We're going to plan to do something in Chile where we can go tasting wine there, a Peruvian restaurant. Well, how about, we do something in Peru where we can cook throughout the country, and so on and so on. So I noticed that if I partner up with people, then it gives me like double the confidence from the audience. And I really like that, because then it's not just on me. I have a partner. It's cool. We can like juggle ideas back and forth. So joint ventures has been a really wonderful experience this past year.
That's really cool. Oh, I love that. It sounds like incredible trips too. Really, really fun. So with all the things that you've learned and like finding what works and what doesn't, what would you say are the biggest things that you've learned since starting State
Yeah,
Adventures?
so
I'm sure there's a
much.
lot, but yeah.
So much. Definitely to have patience. Business is patience. And I am a realistic person. That's why I set that initial goal of 2 years. Don't expect miracles. 2 years is to build and grow. But patience with marketing, patience with clients. And I kind of knew that because in the past, when I worked with clients, some didn't some chatted me up for 6 months before they put a deposit down, and that's okay. That's I at one point, my team was selling $500,000 of sales every month. So suddenly you start thinking, well, that's normal. But when you break it down, somebody's $10,000 trip may be a lifelong savings and investment towards that trip. So I always try to be really sensitive and always put myself in their shoes, like, wow, like that's an amazing budget for a trip. Regardless if the next guy I'm talking to, his budget is 100,000, because I've had those too. Like, here's $80,000, send me somewhere.
Crazy.
I love it. I love them.
Yeah.
Call me.
Absolutely.
But I mean, people are blessed in different ways, but everybody's trip is really important to me. Everybody's experience is really important to me. So I'm like up in the middle of the night creating all these experiences, because some people love cooking and some people hate getting their hands dirty, so they just do tastings, or everything on their bucket list will be hit on one of my trips. But along the way, we're going to do all these fun things, picnics outside in the mountains, and a chef that will guide them, behind the scenes in his restaurant, things that they're going to bring home. It's really memorable. We do not do chain restaurants or chain hotels. No problem with them, just not my thing, because I don't want you to feel like you can do this at home. This is a once in a lifetime. This is just here. If we're in Buenos Aires, I want you to feel like we're in Buenos Aires. So we are always creating all these fun things. I mean, it's so much fun. It is such a great thing. And right now I'm currently thinking, I would like to expand. I would like to have somebody on my team to start teaching them how to do this, so that I can focus on the business and not be in the business so much. Like it's crazy, when you try to juggle everything. But it's really, it's you learn so much. Go back to your original question, so much. And patience, patience, patience. So my big challenge now is expanding the team, and it's going to take me some time to figure out who will be a good fit, because naturally you want to hire somebody that's very much like you. But I don't think I've realized that's not a good idea. There shouldn't be two of me. There should be somebody that can counteract where my weaknesses are, because all of us have weaknesses. Maybe that could be his or her strength. And so it's really fun. We're not selling boilers. We're selling travel. We're selling dreams over here. I always, my family says I create magic, so I sell magic. Like I'm a magician. Like that's,
Yes.
So
I love that. Well, and it's just you can see the passion, hear the passion, and that's what sets it different from your business to, if someone's struggling with theirs is maybe the passion, maybe it's that we've talked a lot about that, especially during the past 2 years now
2
is
years, yeah.
yeah, it's like crazy. But just, honing on or honing in on a niche or focusing in, and because that's where your passion's going to come from. So that's really,
Exactly.
really cool. Yeah. And just
Exactly.
keeps you up at night, like you said. So
For
that's really
sure.
cool. And on that though, what has surviving through the pandemic looked like for you? I mean, I know I don't want to say what did it look like because we're still pretty much going through it, but
Yeah.
what is that looking like for you really?
We're definitely evolving, right? Like with the
Yes, yeah.
pandemic, it throws us new things and we
Mhm.
just kind of go with it. And that is the travel industry. When I used to train people, in the last 20 years, I would always say the second you think you know everything, new hotels open and new experiences things and things collapse and that site is no longer there and you never know everything. So what I've learned during the pandemic as I'm growing the business and as I have my sights on bigger things, obviously international travel, and that's slowly picking up. What I've discovered is what I can do here locally. Well, it doesn't have to be an international magic. We could do domestic Florida-based magic. So I've started running women's retreats here in Florida in the meantime, right? And again, it is because in one weekend, I can get 14 clients, who will give me referrals, who will write reviews, who will have this amazing experience and keep me in their back pocket for when they're ready to travel internationally. It was such a no-brainer. And I think when women get together, it's really special. And we put on like a show. Okay. I have so many local vendors, another way for me to meet local community business owners. All the food is catered from different restaurants. I mean, I have food trucks coming in. I have guys delivering, like making it really fun for the ladies. I have a local shaman come and we do, cleansings and all kinds of spiritual things, yoga teachers, drumming circles. I have a fire spinner. I mean, anyone that I can meet along the way, I invite them to my women's retreats, and we've had a few already. And it's been a really fantastic side project that Sade Adventures is plastered all over. It's still around an experience. It's still delicious food throughout, but it's local and it's quick and it's a weekend. So women have been responding beautifully to them. And, so you just never know which direction you go as long as you just grow, just gotta keep growing.
Yeah. And I wonder how many of those women that are local will be like, oh, I want to do this bigger and go, South
Exactly.
America. Then you plan that and just opens
Exactly.
up a whole new thing.
Exactly. Ideas just to connect the dots,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love that. And so, what would you say what are you looking forward to in 2022 with State Adventures?
Yeah, lots of exciting things coming up. We have, even though most of my clients are on a private basis, so they give me their dates and I plan an itinerary just for them and we really customize it. I've had a lot of clients come forward and say, well, I don't like traveling by myself, or me and my husband love meeting other people on their trips. So a few times a year, we have group departures planned. So this trip to Argentina will be a group of 10 that I'll be leading. I got roped into tango classes because of this, by the way. Tonight's my class number 3. It is Lord Almighty. You see, you never
You're like,
know which direction.
what's going to happen next? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing like a hiking trip to Peru in May. We're doing a historical based trip to the Middle East. We're going to do Jordan, but then also Egypt on that trip in the fall. So we have the calendar's full, for international travel, but I would love to see the team grow this year so that I can focus on these bigger projects and not just be in the email all the time. So lots of exciting things. Who knows? Bring it on, pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so cool. It's so refreshing to hear too. Just all these businesses are. I mean, the industry we know took such a huge hit and still is.
Yeah.
But there's so much good. There's so much growth that's came to that. I mean, your company might not be where it is right now.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
I would have never had the energy or the time to devote to it before. if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not taking away from the seriousness of the
Hmm.
pandemic. I know it's serious. And we have established so many things in each trip to make sure clients feel secure. For example, when clients travel, when they come back home, the United States requires you to have a test, a negative test to arrive back in the States. I have my own people coming into your hotel room to do your test. Like, you
Oh.
don't have to go into a clinic. In every country, I have established that relationship that we sell, where client, it's to make it as smooth as possible, to make it as normal now as possible. It's just another step. Don't worry. In some countries, I have permission from my guides to actually enter into the customs area. So when clients get off the plane, and you know how you like pick up your luggage and go through customs and you're all alone and no one speaks English. I have my guides going past security and past customs to meet them there. I mean, this is like a high-end experience. We're taking care of them from the beginning to end. So, I always try to make that really transparent for clients, that I know it's the pandemic. I'm aware, I'm not oblivious to the horrors that happened around the world, but I'm also hopeful that we can move past it and live, find ways to live around it. So
Hmm.
it's important. It's a huge industry. It has affected so many people. My friends from 20 years of travel, guides, drivers, restaurant owners. So many people were affected. So I want to be part of the solution of bringing business back, not just for me, here in the States. We're blessed. We're privileged here. For people in third world countries that I sell, that need us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, the just the ever changing, evolving. And I know we don't have a crystal ball or anything, but I'd be interested to hear from your perspective of, just since you've been in the industry for, 16 plus years and been with different things, what do you think it's gonna start looking like? Or just especially since you lived through post 9/11 too, and what are you kind of expecting?
I really hope this is the turning year. I
Hmm.
can see 2022, especially now that, I mean, every week is different, right? But right now, we watch numbers like hawks here, like we're
Yeah.
always talking to each other. Did you see good news on, the numbers are going down, which means people will relax a little bit. Between the world being vaccinated and slowly reopening and making it normal, and just people are people have short term like mentality, like they're kind of over the pandemic. 2 years was our maximum. So I really think between those who feel more secure because of the testing and the vaccines, the other half will just be tired of waiting and will just go. So for people who are ready to travel, the world is available, and those are the people I want to focus on. The people who are not ready yet, no problem, no problem. Peru, Greece, they will all be there when they're ready. So right now we just want to focus on the people who are ready and not pressure anyone. You don't want to do that after 2 years of stressful, months. And then also, recovering economically. It's not just the tourism industry that was hit. Many people were affected. So, budgets might be different, but I'm seeing actually after 2 years, a few trends happening. The trend of traveling with multi-generational family members. So like now we're bringing grandma and grandpa, because we haven't seen them for a year, so now they're coming with us. I'm seeing a lot of that where there's multiple family generations. And the other trend I'm seeing is that they want to go for longer. Usually Americans travel weekend and the 5 days between. That's maximum. My God, we cannot do anymore. And now they're kind of seeing like what's important in life. What's important? Time with my family is important. Let's do 2 weeks. Let's do 21 days. Tons of 21-day requests. That like
Wow.
really surprised me because we usually didn't have that much time off, but a lot of people accumulated days off, PTO. So it's so many cool changes are happening for those who are ready. So I think 2022 will be our turning point. I'm seeing it in the ads from local, from international hotels. They're very cautious, but they're welcoming. It's really cool how personalized everything is now. It's not just this come to, Italy. No, it's like spend time with our family here in Italy, make it like, everything's very, very detailed and thought through. And I love that. That's what happens when you have 2 years to sit and think about what you want to do. So I'm very hopeful for this year.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's thoughtful travel. I
Yes.
remember, yeah, that came up another time and I was like, that is correct. Because it is, you have the accumulated time, you're realizing the importance of, spending time with your loved ones, travel experiences, and it's taught us a lot. So this has been really great. I love hearing. I can't wait to watch State Adventures just grow, because sky is well, no, there is no limit. It's you're gonna do really awesome things. So thank you so much for sharing that all with us today. That's really cool, just insight to see.
My pleasure. And I'm sure a year from now, let's talk again, and
I know,
and we can learn from this year.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I know. That's the thing. It's ever changing so fast. And yeah, so no, we'll have to do that. We will schedule the next one for next year. Hopefully we are just traveling like crazy, which I think we will. I mean, yeah, because the world is open. So, but thank you so much again. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge of Travfy Academy. And again, thank you to our special guest, Karolina, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe and we will catch you on the next flight.
Thank you. Happy travels.